Brad, I experienced a new side effect of electric cars this morning.
Oh, good. That's life with a new paradigm shifting product, right? And every day is a new adventure.
I mean, it is. I had to get up this morning and go to the grocery store right when they opened at 6. And I walked out, and we have skunks in our neighborhood. So you kind of take a look when you step out on the front porch and give it an eyeball, make sure there's nothing around. But I got all the way into I unplugged the car. I got into the car. And as I was sitting down, I see a little white bushy tail just walking right underneath the front right corner of the car.
Wait, the car's out on the driveway? This is not in the garage?
The driveway is full. The garage is full of crap. There's no cars fitting in there.
Of course.
Yeah, it's California. We don't have closets. So I see the bushy tail and I'm like, well, shit, what do I do? Because normally you just kind of start the car and then the skunk would scurry out and it'd be like, oh, this is a sound I'm familiar with. But the electric car kind of doesn't make a startup sound.
Oh, no.
It goes whir, whir, whir when you're driving down the street so you don't tag somebody.
I'm sorry. This is a full category difference on the type of problem that I thought you were going to come in here and talk about.
No. So I was sitting in there. I was like, how do I deal with it? I don't want to honk because I don't want to startle it. I turned off the air conditioning in the vent first. That was number one, right?
Your number one priority here is to not
prevent
have it spray, right? I mean, setting aside the actual priority of you also don't want to run over it, which both kills the animal and also still releases the stink.
That's a sometimes problem.
Oh, does that not always happen?
They do not always release on death.
Okay. Well, you don't want to run over it or have it spray.
I like, generally speaking, even though they're incredibly destructive to my yard, which is not beautiful, I kind of like the skunks. They're very cute and they're quite affable. And I think we've talked about before. I had a crazy aunt who had a pet skunk for a while.
What?
Have I not told you this?
No, in the house.
Oh yeah.
What?
So she was a nature cinematographer and she found a baby skunk whose mom had been killed. In an accident when she was on a shoot in like Missouri or Nebraska or someplace one time, and violating what I'm sure are several federal and state laws. She brought it back to Northern Virginia with her, and its name was Squirt. She had it for like 6 years. It didn't spray ever.
Not once.
Not that I'm aware of. She had leaked occasionally, just like a little taste of. But generally speaking, Squirt was really chill. Very affectionate, would like sit on your lap and was very snuggly, almost like a cat.
Wait, you held the skunk?
I've held a pet skunk. Yeah, she found a vet that would help her take care of it. That would like give it shots and stuff so it could get, I assume, rabies vaccines. I don't know. I didn't ask. I was young when this happened. And then eventually, when it got to a point where it was starting to leak more often, she gave it to a nature, like a children's nature museum type situation.
Good, I guess. I have to imagine after 6 years, that's probably not easy to part.
I mean, I'm going to go and tell you when it started leaking more, it became a pretty easy decision, as I recall.
Yes.
But also, I say she was a little bit like, look, the house always had a little bit of a funk, right? It was not like skunk free. But anyway, so the skunk's under the front of the car. And I'm like, well, this is an intractable position because I didn't see it come back out. I load up the doorbell camera to see if I can see it walking around out there. Nope, nothing. I put the overhead because the car has the whole around the car cameras, and I hit that button after a minute or two when I realized. But then I was like, well, crap, what do? I don't know what to do here. So I sat there for a minute and then I rolled forward just a smidge and nothing shot out from under the car. And so then I drove off and it was fine. It must have gone out the back when I wasn't looking.
Okay. No idea how it resolved. So wait, hang on, just to back up. Are you saying that skunks in the area have become accustomed to the sound of combustion engines and know to get out of the way?
I think generally speaking, animals that live in suburban areas are familiar with the sound of combustion engines and know not to be there.
And like I said, electric cars, every day is a new adventure.
Yeah, it was exciting. Welcome to Brad and Will Made a Tech Pod. I'm Will.
I'm Brad.
Brad, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I resisted. I'm kind of glad you brought a skunk story for the cold open because I was all ready to come in here,
Linux guns blazing,
and talk about the Dual Boot Diaries, which I guess we could still get into if you want. But
we look. It's funny. I listen to several podcasts where your name is invoked regularly. I'm on one of them.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're going to have. Yeah.
Hang on. Are you talking about podcasts I'm on, or are you saying there are podcasts I'm not on that talk about me?
So, podcast. So I was listening to I've been working my way through the back catalog of AMCA since Rob was on. I mean, since before that, but
sure.
And I was on one of the old patron episodes from like maybe the first year that they did it. And I think Austin cited a conversation with you about the Revenge of the Sith novelization and some Sheev related motivations.
That's amazing because I had another conversation with him about the Revenge of the Sith novelization not 2 weeks ago.
I have the Revenge of the Sith novelization in my Libby list. There's only like 2 copies in the San Francisco Public Library system. So
it's good.
Yeah, I'm going to read it.
I dearly hope they do an episode about that novel at some point.
I am 100% positive that they are going to do an episode as many times as he's brought it up over the years. Anyway.
That's exciting to hear, right? I feel like there are 2 kinds of people.
Yeah.
When you hear that someone is talking about you, you either get excited or you become incredibly fearful. And I am extremely the latter. Yeah,
but like you shouldn't be, because you generally speaking, you comport yourself well.
Well, thank you. That's okay.
I think that you don't live your life in a way that you should be afraid of the things that you've said in the past.
Okay, that's good.
Which is like, I try to live my life that way. I think I'm probably less successful than some and more than others, you know. But yeah, like I don't. Sometimes when I started doing podcasts a million years ago, and we were doing the Maximum PC podcast, and it felt like just 5 people sitting in an office talking to each other, and we didn't realize that like tens or hundreds of thousands of people were listening to that every week.
Yep.
The first time somebody came up to me and was like, "Hey, I listened to your podcast," I kind of panicked, and I was like, it was like a fight or flight moment. I was like, I should run.
God, what did I say?
Yeah. What did I do this time? But yeah, you know, it's a little more polished experience these days, I guess. But
for the most part.
So you came up on Dual Boot Diaries this week because we were talking about. Well, we talked a little bit about your approach to multi-booting different distros of Linux the other day. Yeah.
I was just talking to somebody on the Full Nerd Discord this morning. Ironically, it was someone who is also on who I know from our Discord.
Look, it's a crossover event happening right now.
Everything is everything now.
Yeah, they're all merging.
But I was talking to them about that exact thing. About like, I'm trying to remember what the specifics were. It was they had a situation where one OS hijacked another OS's boot configuration.
Yep.
I think it was Windows messed up Linux, or I forget. Anyway, it was one of those conversations of like, yeah, this is just going to kind of keep happening.
Windows loves to overwrite Linux,
but it's not just Windows though.
Oh, other Linuxes overwrite
Linux
too.
Likes to overwrite Linux, and also your UEFI likes to make seemingly random, harebrained decisions about what to do with your boot entries. Like it's all just a mess.
Well, so we were talking about this because Adam's working this out with the Framework laptops and the Framework desktop, which purport to boot off of their little USB expansion cards, but kind of don't. Like the UEFI doesn't see them as bootable. So what I did was I set up Refind on a secondary partition, on a tertiary partition at the end of the drive. And then it just scans all the available drives because it sees those USB drives and you can boot off of whatever's on whatever at that point. But
yeah, it was actually real quick, just to close the loop here. It was actually the Refined author that I was quoting to this person on the Discord this morning. I'll just read it to you because that the Refined site is a trove of information.
Yes, it is an incredible, but also it's very clearly this dude's blog, Roderick W. Smith.
It is, yeah. So the guy who writes Refined, the boot manager. Also, I'm going to resist the ultimate pedantry here. At some point, I have to deliver a screed, maybe on the Dual Boot Diaries, about how Refined is not a bootloader. It's just a boot manager. But anyway,
but the TLDR is it solves a lot of problems.
Yeah, it absolutely. It's very useful. But that guy's site, I'll link it in the show notes, is the most 1993 Web 1.0 like original Tim Berners-Lee HTTP design.
It really is.
It is just plain, like zero style sheets, zero anything. It's just plain.
It's a table, I think.
There are some like very basic original HTML features in there, but it is just numerous giant walls of text on a white background.
And this sounds like, when you say it that way, it sounds like a bad thing, but it's actually really fantastic because it makes reading it really easy. And like the total page load is like a fractions of a second, and it's like 3 kilobytes or something. It's crazy.
But it's a lot of technical information just kind of blasted at you. Like it's not necessarily like divided up and segmented in a way that's easily digestible. It's just a lot of information in bulk. Anyway, all of that is to say his site is like, it's like the Bible for UEFI booting and how secure boot works and stuff for me. Like it's like where I learned everything I know about that stuff. But he has an entire page on there. This is the thing I was going to get at, is that he has an entire page on there about OSs and UEFI behaving badly and stepping on each other's toes and screwing up your boot configuration. So I'll just read the quote very quickly. Once you've installed Refind, you may face a new challenge, keeping it set as your default boot manager. Users of multi-boot computers have long faced similar challenges because most OSs provide mechanisms to keep themselves booting, even at the cost of disrupting other OSs or overriding your own choices. So like everything. Yeah. I've had issues on computers that have just Linux on them that have never been touched by Windows, and still having like boot entries disappear and having them become unbootable because either the Debian installer or the UEFI or something made a weird decision and decided to delete some stuff. Like it's just a constant mess trying to keep OSs behaving and booting.
This is why my general policy is don't mess with the default boot stuff for the OS. And then it's why I like using Refind, honestly, for dual boots, is because then you set up a separate partition that the OS doesn't know about and doesn't jack with. And that's just where Refind lives and stuff kind of just works at that point. But anyway.
Yeah. You say that, but this user had Windows install its bootloader on a separate drive that was not the drive that the Windows install was on. So like Windows will still just put things wherever it wants.
Well, look, this is why when people say, hey, I want to install Windows, what do? I was like, take every other drive out of the machine first, except for the one you want Windows to be on. Yep.
We had that exact conversation.
Yeah, it's the stupidest possible solution to the problem.
Yes. Okay. All right. At this point, we should probably just get to the actual episode topic. I'll save my boot. I was excited to hear you talking about finding Find, though.
Oh yeah, Find is incredible.
You talked about your first experience with Find, and we'll talk about that at some point.
Yeah, dual boot diaries, wherever fine podcasts are found. But on this podcast, we're doing a 2025 end of life extravaganza.
There's a lot of stuff dying in 2025.
Look, this is where we insert the doors into the podcast, I guess.
I started to, that comment could be interpreted in a lot of different ways. But we will define this narrowly to recent tech products that are end of lifing.
Yeah. We're keeping the scope tight today. We're going to talk about Windows 10. We're going to talk about TiVo, and we're going to talk about Blu-ray drives.
Like fuzzily, we will talk about like BD-ROMs. PC Blu-ray drives, which like we've got some announcements there that are official about companies getting out of that business, but then others are more fuzzy, like, hey, these are no longer available anywhere, but no official messaging anyway.
Yeah. But let's start with Windows 10. We've talked about this a bunch over the last year because it's been looming. This is the first post Windows 10.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing because we had talked about it so much that I figured that by the time we got to the actual date, we wouldn't talk about it anymore because we had covered it extensively. But of course, we were going to have to address it post date.
Like so on one hand, I joked about this on the Full Nerd this week because of course we talked about it there too. But on one hand, there's a lot of panic because like you're theoretically not supported anymore. On the other hand, Microsoft has added a bunch of bypasses to bypass to continue getting security updates for another year, basically.
Yeah. So like we had that debate a couple weeks ago about whether they would blink at the last minute or not. And I feel like we were both right because they didn't officially blink, but they like kind of soft on the back end have like it's almost like, hey, I know a guy. It's like, hey, you want another year of support? Open the trench coat here. You can look at all my illicit wares. Do you want to use OneDrive to back up your settings? Do you want to give me 1,000 Microsoft points?
Or you can pay $30.
Yeah. That one they had talked about, but
well, I thought it was 60 originally. So they've definitely dialed it back some. For folks who don't know, Windows 10 officially ended end of life on Tuesday, the 14th of October, 2025. That means that they're not getting feature updates. They're not doing security updates unless you do one of three things, basically. You can. It turns out originally they said you have to use Windows Backup to back up your profile folders, but then they changed that to, if you have OneDrive installed and you're logged into an online Microsoft account, it will just back up your settings to the cloud for that machine, which means like it will sync your wallpapers and your dark mode and stuff like that, your theme settings pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do that's good enough. They'll pop up a thing in Windows Update that says, hey, do you want to do this long-term support extended security updates dealie for Windows 10 since you seem to still be using it?
Yeah, I think that's the value of approaching this or revisiting this post end of life, is that now we can see how they have chosen to roll this out. And yeah, I was actually kind of surprised to find that it's just showing up in people's Windows Update settings panel in Windows. I kind of assumed that, we knew that, like we said, we knew there were going to be ways to opt into a little bit of extended support, but I assumed that was going to be visiting some relatively obscure Microsoft webpage and maybe having to log in and potentially give money, etc. Like the idea that this is coming straight to people on their Windows 10 PCs in the place where they get Windows 10 updates already, and it's essentially a single click to just say, yes, I want more security updates, is kind of surprising to me.
I'm sure it's going to be a notification, like they're going to do a pop-up as well that says, hey, you should consider upgrading to Windows 11 if you can do that, but if not, maybe do this instead, because it's in Microsoft's best interest for these machines to continue getting security updates, right?
Yeah. If you, I assume you saw this, but the link to the, is this a knowledge base article? I don't know what you call this. It's just kind of
the knowledge base is dead, end of life.
Really? Just add it to the list.
Yeah, put it on the things Microsoft killed.
But this Microsoft.com link that we have in the show notes has a screenshot of the enrollment panel in Windows 10.
Oh,
where you actually are picking how you want to enroll.
That's nice.
And it literally has, what's the term? Radio button.
Radio button. Yeah.
Radio is the one that you can only select one of, right?
Mm-hmm.
It literally is a panel that just has 3 radio buttons, which is like, choose how you want to enroll in extended security updates, back up your PC settings, redeem Microsoft rewards points, one-time purchase. So like, I guess I shouldn't be surprised. Like they have incredibly extensive telemetry, let's say, right, about how many people are still using Windows 10, because that's kind of what Windows is these days, a telemetry collection machine.
Mm-hmm.
So they know better than anybody how many people have refused to update to 11 and how many people are in need of this, right? Like you said, it is in their interest to not have a bunch of like millions and millions of insecure Windows installs out there.
So there's a couple of gotchas here. One is if you uninstalled OneDrive, you can't do the settings backup thing. Which means
yes, because that's so I've seen people on my feed talking about not getting opted into this, and those same people I believe in the past have removed OneDrive. So I wonder if that's actually preventing. But could you just reinstall it?
You could just reinstall it from the store. Yeah.
Okay.
You also need to have Windows 10 version 22H2, and it needs to be a consumer version, not one of the long-term support or kiosk mode versions or an Active Directory. Or connected to an Active Directory or anything that's like businessy, basically. It can't be a child account is the other thing. So you have to be signed into an admin account, and that admin account can't be a child account, which means if your kid's PC isn't getting this update and they're on Windows 10, what you do is you go log in as your admin adult account and then opt into it, and then their machine will be opted in as a result of that. So yeah, the 3 things we talked about this before out, so I'm going to be real fast. The syncing your PC settings is free and easy. I would just do that unless you really don't want to have a Microsoft account on your computer for some reason. The 1,000 Microsoft, I think you probably have to be signed in for all 3 of these ways with a Microsoft account though, because you can't make the purchase without a Microsoft account, and you can't have Microsoft rewards points redeemed to your account without that. So
yeah, I'm sure a lot of people listening have seen the headline in the last couple of weeks that they are continuing to close off avenues for creating non-online accounts in Windows.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I think you're down to one solution for that now.
This is why, you can do the Active. You can say, hey, I need to connect to an Active Directory, but I'm not there. That still works, but it's kind of a pain to figure out how to get there.
I just gave up. Like, honestly, it feels impossible at this point. Like, it's kind of just a cost of doing business with Windows at this point that you have to have frankly, and to be clear, I fully respect the decision to not want to have to make an online account to sign into your OS. Like, that is absolutely reasonable. But I feel like in practical terms, if that's you should just run Linux at this point. It feels like a losing battle to continue trying to use Windows in this way.
Well, so I'm in between because I don't mind having the online account. Like I actually sign in once I install Windows. I want the install to happen without the online account because of the stupid stuff that they do with the file structure.
But yes, that is only because of stupid arbitrary decisions they have made about how it jacks up your home directory and some other related stuff to sign in at install time as opposed to signing in after install.
Yeah, if the file structure wasn't all OneDrived up for my profile folders, I would absolutely just sign in on the login. I used to do that before they started doing that, and it's only because of this post OneDrive-ination of Windows that I started doing that. So anyway, so that's it for Windows 10. Don't run you're going to see a lot of blog posts from people who are making bad decisions and encouraging bad behavior about running the LTSC versions.
Yeah, that's the long-term servicing channel version, which is I think you described it as the airport kiosk version of Windows.
Yeah, all those screens you see blue screened at airports that have arrivals and departures on them. Mm-hmm. That's what this version of Windows is for. It's not for day-to-day use.
Yeah, I looked into it a little. I mean, it is run on some more serious stuff, like a lot of medical, like imaging systems and air traffic control and stuff like that. But those are still use cases where you need a very bare bones operating environment and it's not a full end user implementation.
Well, and also in a key way, they're also in places where users may interact with them, but they're not interacting with the broader internet, right? So they're not machines. Like if you're on your dialysis machine, that you're not browsing the web and playing Candy Crush on that thing, so that's the big difference.
I looked into it a little bit because I've been seeing people recommend the LTSC version on like places like Twitter, which is like, I mean, stop me if you've heard of this one. Twitter is utterly rife with terrible information about everything. But
yeah, of course. One
of those things is installing Windows. And like I've been seeing people for like 2 years now say, just go get LTSC. Like you'll never have to think about it again.
Super bad idea.
I ended up on, are you familiar with Massgrave?
Yeah.
Like I think they do a lot of like Windows activation scripts and stuff like that these days. But I ended up on their wiki about this. And even they basically have some like misconceptions about LTSC listed here. Common misconceptions. LTSC is fast. It's not fast, although there might be a bit more RAM available because of no store apps running in the background. You can achieve the same result in the regular editions by turning off background apps and startup apps. It's more privacy oriented. No telemetry options are the same. And then some other stuff there, but basically, and it lacks support for some stuff like some games and newer applications may not run on LTSC because it doesn't get updated as often. And
well, honestly, you're going to see games that stop supporting Windows 10 shortly.
Yeah.
Right. We're already seeing like people are pulling their 32-bit versions because Windows 11 doesn't support 32-bit CPUs. Like you have to have a 64-bit CPU to run Windows 11. So like Steam 32-bit is going to go away shortly if it hasn't already. Stuff like that.
I don't see on this Microsoft page how long. I've seen conflicting reports of how long the ESU lasts.
A year.
I think it's a year is the main site.
1 year.
I've seen people talk about the 3-year span, but I think that's the paid support. I think that's the like enterprise level.
That's for commercial enterprise.
Volume priced. Commercial support. So you're only kicking the can down the road for a year, although a year is some decent buffer to.
This page I'm looking at says that the ESU ends on October 13th, 2026. So it's a 1 year.
So I would if you're still on Windows 10 and intent on enabling ESU, I would treat that year as a year to figure out what you're going to move on to.
Yep.
Like Windows 10
time.
Yes. Like realistically, like Windows 10 is not a forever OS and you're going to be SOL at some point. And that some point is next October.
Yeah. October 14th, 2026.
So
it seems like
you pretty much need to in the next year either make your peace with Windows 11 in some fashion or move on to another operating system.
So then and so the other thing not to do is not to run the versions of this that you download from the internet.
Yeah, I think
because people make like install scripted versions that don't have the checks and stuff installed. Don't run Windows from non-Microsoft sources.
I've talked about this before. I hate this phenomenon of like people literally using the phrase Windows distro.
Mm-hmm.
There's stuff like Atlas OS out there, and like they're giving themselves like flashy homepages and unique names and stuff. Like
It's a malware distribution system.
I mean, we can't say definitively that any of those have malware, but it's certainly prone to that sort of thing. Like,
there's no way to know that it's not a malware distribution system.
If you really insist on customizing and ripping out major components of your Windows install the official Windows and do it yourself.
Or just run Linux at that point.
Yes, that's also, I would agree with that.
So anyway, so that's it. That's Windows 10. It made it 10 years almost exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Long live Windows 10. The last version of Windows we'll ever need. Steve Ballmer, 2014.
Remember when didn't they actually say?
They said final Windows.
They said it was the final Windows. My theory is that it was Apple changing their versioning that at least to an extent that spurred because they could have kept iterating on Windows 10, but they made the conscious marketing branding choice to bump it to 11.
I think they wanted to get rid of 32-bit support.
Well, but they could have still. I don't think they had to rebrand to do things like that.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
They could have just kept versioning Windows 10 forever. What if they dropped the number?
Yeah, just Windows.
What if it just became Windows?
The Windows, I think, is what is
the
your
Windows.
people. Yeah. I don't know.
I was Googling the phrase Windows 12 again this morning, as I sometimes do.
Yeah.
There's not a lot out there right now.
People talking.
It seems like in fact, like there used to be more rumors about a Windows 12 and that seems to have dried up. So that seems like that may be a good ways off if and when. Maybe
Windows 11 really will be the last version of Windows. Anyway.
It will be for a lot of people. Ha ha ha.
Speaking of things that have ended.
This one is insane to me.
So TiVo.
Like this is just like... I think, a bunch of sites reported this. Cord Cutters News is the one that a bunch of people cited. I think they might have been the first kind of blog in this space to land on this information.
Yeah.
Can I just read the first sentence of the story?
Mm-hmm.
In a seismic shift for the television industry, TiVo Corporation has quietly pulled the plug on its storied digital video recorder line, effectively ending an era that redefined how consumers interacted with broadcast content. This news story is dated October 2025. And not say sometime in 2012. Like I assumed that TiVo ceased to exist like a decade ago.
So for people who don't know and don't remember TiVo, I think it's important to provide a little context here. TiVo was the first DVR. There was Replay TV came out around the same time, but TiVo was the one that made the concept popular through a mixture of good branding and really nice software and a extensible kind of with an asterisk platform. And for folks who don't know what for the children in the audience who don't know what a DVR was, in the 80s and 90s, you would buy a VCR with a clock in it and you would say, I want to record The Simpsons and Beavis and Butthead. And The Simpsons are on channel 11 at 7 p.m. and 7:30, and then again on Sundays at 8. And Beavis and Butthead is on Thursday nights at 9 p.m. on channel 72. And you would put all those things in using your remote control, and usually it would record them onto a tape if there was enough room on the tape. And then when you got home, you would be able to rewind that tape and you'd look at it and you'd be like, oh man, heck yeah, I have most of an episode of The Simpsons, except for the part where the football game ran late. And then I didn't get the first 10 minutes because it started late. And then you have to watch the end of that one like a year from then when they rerun it.
Yeah. Can I jump in real quick? Have you heard of Marion Stokes?
The name's familiar, but I don't remember who they are.
I just became familiar with her. Like, it literally was just like some random post on my feed that somebody was like, people do these little like history explainer threads on social media.
Uh-huh.
She is a woman from, I think it was Pennsylvania. She lived in Pennsylvania. She recorded 70,000 VHS tapes worth of local television programming over the course of her life.
Oh, so she's a person who has an archive.org collection named after them.
Yeah. Really? She's since passed away. I don't know. I did not see what happened to the fate of her tape collection. Apparently, these tapes were being stored across multiple apartments by the end of the whole project because she was basically just worried about, and justifiably was worried about television programming not being archived or just vanishing, being lost to history.
Wow.
So I kind of want to follow up more on this and find out what happened to all her tapes, because tapes of old broadcast TV are priceless.
It's wild, the stuff that was on back then. So she did donate it to the internet. Her son donated to the Internet Archive after her death.
Right.
4 shipping containers worth of tapes were required to move the collection to IA's headquarters. And there's been a documentary about her. But
and
okay,
anyway,
so,
just to this is what things were like before TiVo.
Yeah, you would record stuff, you'd get the ads, the whole thing, and then you just watch it like it was kind of a low quality version of what was on the TV. TiVo came out in 1999 with a box that was like the same size as a VCR, but didn't have a slot for a tape, basically. And it would record you just tell it you like The Simpsons, and then it would record The Simpsons anytime The Simpsons was on. So it was a really novel experience in that you didn't have to do like normal. The perception, and this is going to sound crazy, but the perception in the 90s was that normal people didn't know how to work the timed recording on their VCR. That was some real nerd business.
That was like an extreme, let's say, like fixture of late night show comedy routines.
Yeah,
kind of thing. Like it was a extremely common trope of regular people don't know how to program the time on their VCR.
Your VCR was blinking midnight because that's what would happen if you didn't set the time on your VCR. So TiVo came out with this thing. It cost a few $100. It came out in 1999, and it really changed the way, like, it was one of those things that my partner at the time went to a friend's house. They had a TiVo, and she came back and she's like, "We're going to Best Buy tomorrow. We're getting one of these things. This is incredible." Because what it let you do is it recorded a constant buffer of TV of whatever channel was on, but then would also record the things you're watching. So if you paused it and walked away and made a drink and went to the bathroom, came back and sit down, you could fast forward through the commercials, right? Which was shocking, revolutionary.
Yeah.
It changed the way we watch TV to the point that, like, when we moved to California and we had friends who went to the same college as us, and we'd get together on Saturday mornings to watch college football, you only went to the friend's house if they had a TiVo.
Sure.
Right. And everybody knew to show up like 30 or 40 minutes late, because it was before social media. So we'd start the game recording, and then we'd pause it and we'd start the game. So we didn't have to watch commercials. We could fast forward through halftime and be done in like 2 hours instead of 5.
I'm trying to think back. Was that actually maybe kind of a bigger pillar of the marketing than the recording shows offline, or when you're not paying attention? I feel like I remember the you can pause live TV thing actually being like the refrain.
The you can pause, like, they definitely tested a bunch of different things. The you can pause live TV was a big part of it. The never miss your favorite show was the other big one, right?
That was the kind of standard one, but I think it was the more, because you could program VCRs to record things when you weren't around.
Kind of.
It was was the point is that was a concept people at least understood as being possible.
Mm-hmm.
It was the you can hit pause in the middle of watching something live and walk away thing that felt like magic or felt like the future.
Agreed. So it was a cultural, like the TiVo became a real cultural touchstone around that time. Like, it was referenced on TV shows. The thing made a sound that's instantly recognizable. It went doo 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 when you fast forwarded or rewound.
Yep.
The menu beeps and bloops were really good and really well designed, and it like kind of has a big giant legacy, even though we've moved to on-demand distribution for content over the internet now. It invented the PVR, DVR for all intents and purposes.
Like it became a verb, right? Like, didn't people talk about, like, people would just talk about TiVoing things, right?
Yeah, I'm going to TiVo that. Yeah. It was widely regarded as the first non-pornographic $10 monthly subscription for a thing.
Oh, great. Thanks, TiVo.
So, I mean, like, look, some of the legacy is not good. Okay. They also had a lifetime sub that was usually attached to the hardware, although that varied by region and the service. So, like, if you had a satellite version of the TiVo, then it would be tied to your account rather than the device or something. It was weird. And in Australia, they had all sorts of weird rules about that annual sub. The service that you paid for provided the TV listings that made the season passes work. So you could use it without paying for the service, but if you did that, then you didn't get the news is on at 6 p.m. and Wheel of Fortune is on at 7.
Oh.
You just got the times, and you had to do it like the old fashioned way.
I don't think I remembered that you could use it without the service. But at that point, you were literally just programming like channel numbers and times at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So the thing that honestly, the other thing that this killed was TV Guide. So before TiVo, everybody in the country that watched TV on the reg got a little magazine that was like, I don't know, it was like, I'd call it Reader's Digest size now, but it was like the size of a paperback book, basically.
Oh my God, you were really jogging some memories here. We didn't really get TV Guide, but I assume most local newspapers, ours ran local listings in the paper.
Ours absolutely did not.
Really?
No.
I'm pretty sure I remember I remember looking at the newspaper to look at the local TV listings for the week.
But yeah, so you had a magazine that came once a week that told you what was going to be on TV that week, which football games were going to be on, and it was all local for your region. So like if you were in the region that got Braves games instead of Reds games, you would know that you got the Braves game on ABC on Saturday afternoon at 3 p.m. So TiVo killed that. They got rid of that. It gave you a big giant guide of all the things that you could watch at any given time, which cable was kind of already doing at that point, but it wasn't really interactive. It was just a channel that kind of scrolled.
Yeah.
And then also their response. So TiVo is widely regarded as the reason that the GPL version 3 exists.
Yes. I looked this up. The word Tivoization was coined because the TiVo ran Linux.
Yeah.
Linux famously is under the GNU General Public License, which requires you to release any changes to source code you make.
Which they did.
Or so, yes, they took Linux, they ran Linux on, this is probably the first example of a consumer device running Linux that I can think of.
It was definitely for non-network hardware for sure. Yeah.
So my understanding is they took the Linux source code, they modified it for use on the TiVo. They did release the source code changes they made as required by the license, but there were protections in place on the hardware to prevent you from further modifying their source code and putting it back on the device and running it.
I think specifically they signed the kernel or something so that you had to run a signed kernel. And if you didn't have their cryptographic keys, then you couldn't write your own code changes. This
caused a lot of consternation among certain open source software freedom.
The Beardo people were upset about this.
Let's say, which, like, let's be real. I think that I listened to the conversation with Wendell about practical versus ideological. Like, you need the ideological component. Like,
you need it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You need the ideologues. Like, you can't let them steer every decision, but like you need them backstopping the constant encroaching of like corporate and moneyed interests that would love to shut down everything good about open source.
That said, I think that the move toward MIT, more permissive licenses, like I think that the GPL3 stuff, because it's so viral, and this is a whole different topic for another episode, but
and
because it goes so far,
we're not lawyers also, like we're barely, I think, qualified to talk about the differences between V2 and V3 of the GPL.
Well, but the big thing is that you had to like GPL V3 tends to infect other code that it touches, right? So if you write something in GPL V3, then you have to the other modules of that project also have to be GPL V3 and stuff like that. Anyway,
right. It's like too infectious is my understanding of V3.
Which is why everybody uses MIT and BSD licenses now, which are incredibly permissive.
Or GPL V2, which they're still, like, the Linux kernel is still under V2. In fact, apparently Linus Torvalds defended TiVo here. It was Richard Stallman and the Free Software Foundation that coined the term Tivoization and got really angry about this. But like,
Linus was running Linux. He was running a TiVo and was really happy because he had lots of back episodes of, I don't know, probably read some, whatever Linus watches.
Yes. Yeah. I got to be a pedant here again. Linus, because he's Finnish.
Sorry, he's Finnish. Yeah, I know.
Canadian Linus, Finnish Linus.
Okay.
That's the title of the episode. Stallman calls it Tivoization, but that's a word he has made up and a term I find offensive, so I don't choose to use it. It's offensive because TiVo never did anything wrong, and the Free Software Foundation even acknowledged that.
Yeah. So it's not like when Linksys was not posting their GPL code that they used for their routers a few years later.
Right,
which was bad. That was against the rules. Anyway, so this thing ran Linux. One of the interesting side effects of that was because it ran Linux, it's probably the first time I used Linux as a user, because if you like this thing was basically a MIPS. The first one was a PowerPC. The second one was a MIPS processor. It was a little PC. It had a dedicated MPEG-2 encoders and giant IDE hard drives, like 14 gigabyte IDE hard drives and 32 gigabyte IDE hard drives at launch. The trick was, if you knew how to run Linux and knew how to run a script that somebody had figured out, you could go to Best Buy or CompUSA and buy a big ass hard drive, boot into Linux, bless that hard drive with a piece of software that basically said, hey, this drive's cool. And then you could plug that drive into your TiVo, and you would have, instead of 14 hours of storage on your TiVo for a 14 gig drive, you'd have 60 hours of storage on TiVo for your 60 gig drive.
That's pretty good. Did the interface know how to deal with the extra stuff?
Yes, it knew how to deal with the bigger drives especially as drives continued to get really, really big during that period. Eventually they would be the index would be too big for the amount of RAM that was in the machine.
Right.
And you'd have like really slow UI problems. So like there was an upper limit to the size that you wanted to put into any given unit, but they also increased the RAM in them over time because it was easy to add RAM to them and stuff like for TiVo, not for users. It was soldered onto the boards. But anyway, basically these things had RCA or coax inputs on the back, and you would plug them into your basic cable service in the analog days, or your cable box.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. Were there situations where you could run the coax straight out of the wall into the TiVo and not even have a cable box of any kind?
Yeah, so if you had basic cable and you just were watching basic cable channels, that's how you did it. If you wanted to get HBO and paid channels, then you had to use IR blasters and coax or S-video outputs to the inputs on the back of the TiVo. And then that went into the MPEG-2 encoder, and it was doing basically DVD quality MPEG-2 encoding on the NTSC video signals. And it used everyone's favorite technology of the 90s and early 2000s, IR blasters, to change the channel.
They're still around. Yeah,
they're great. Everybody loves them. They also eventually made like DirecTV versions where they would basically pull the MPEG-2 stream out of the satellite feed and just save that directly without any kind of encoder.
Oh, wild.
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy. I mean, that's cool.
Yeah. It's weird, right?
Yeah.
They'd worked with cable company. Like if you were lucky enough to be at a place where the cable provider liked TiVo, you could get TiVo boxes straight from your cable company that did the same thing as cable moved from analog to digital.
Yeah, I will say this is a bit tangential to what you're talking about here, but this TiVo was also a situation, probably the first example I can think of TiVo came out, revolutionary new features, pretty polished user experience and user interface. It was the first example I can think of then like shitty no-name cable boxes from your cable provider having those features trickle down to them, but in a much inferior and more infuriating form. You know what I mean? Like cable boxes that were distributed by your cable company started picking up TiVo like features, but they were always worse. They were always shittier, less well thought out, less performant versions of what the TiVo could do.
Like one of the defining characteristics of the TiVo experience was that when you hit the pause button, it paused immediately. There was no like lag on that kind of stuff.
Right. So
you got immediate beeps and bloops when you were fast forwarding or rewinding. So you could totally, if you were good at it, you could nail that end of commercial and be really, because it would roll back like 10 frames. Mm-hmm. So you'd see the first frame of the TV show, you'd hit the play button and it would boop back a little bit. And then you'd be right there where you started with no unwanted advertising.
Right.
They ended up being one of the reasons that cable card existed. So cable card, for people who don't know, was an FCC mandated like universal cable decryption standard that basically they were these PCMCIA cards that you would jam in the back of a TiVo or some other DVR type box that let you get decrypted cable channels like on the digital cable network. And they were required by I think FCC. I could be wrong. It might be the FTC or one of the other federal agencies.
It was the FCC. It was the Telecommunications Act of 1996.
Yeah, they were required until 2020, at which point they were no longer mandated, and I think everybody pretty much dropped support for them immediately. But by that point, it didn't matter because we'd all moved to the inferior. Hey, you can watch this on Hulu or your streaming box, and then there's no way to skip the ads.
TV doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. They didn't. It's funny. They were really weird about stuff. They didn't have like a cable commercial skip button for a really long time.
Wasn't there? Who did that first? I feel like I remember somebody marketing that in their product of
Replay TV.
And wasn't there litigation around that, or there was like at least the threat of litigation that like a lot of the content providers or I guess I should say channels back then.
Yeah, they got sued.
Were mad about the whole thing.
Yeah, so TiVo was really intentional that they gave you control over that, but they didn't give you a smart skip button that lets you bypass commercials by looking at like blank space on the video, stuff like that. They eventually, like I said, they got supplanted by like boxes, by stuff that's built into the TV set-top boxes. 2018, they launched TiVo in the cloud, which was a TiVo app that you could pay for on other set-top boxes without hard drives. Didn't really work the same, didn't take off. By that point, they were essentially a patent company that was just hitting cable box manufacturers and anybody who had one of the handful of patents that were still relevant for them at that point. And then they went, they turned off the service earlier this week. So we had a TiVo from 1999 until like 2018. Mm-hmm. It was a 19-year run for us.
Dude, what?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Like that just rolled off me for a second, and then I stopped and thought, like, what?
Yeah.
Still in active use?
Well, I mean, it wasn't the same one, obviously, but
right,
yeah.
But just using any TiVo all the way through 2018. So, I mean, I guess there were still a lot of set-top boxes around.
Well, so the thing that killed it for us was we switched from Comcast to fiber in 2018. That's when we got fiber in our neighborhood, and the cable cards, AT&T didn't do cable cards, and we didn't do TV through AT&T at that point because Hulu and YouTube and all of those kind of online cable operator type dealies were good enough at that point. So I was hoping that I was going to be able to, I grabbed my old TiVo out of the garage.
Right.
But it's not connecting to the capture thing. So if you vamp for like a minute, that sounded bad.
Boy, asking me to vamp is asking for trouble, but I do have like a technical and nostalgic thing I can talk about here.
Yeah, let's go.
While you're waiting for that thing to boot. I think we've talked about this briefly before, but you could pull recordings off of a TiVo.
Yeah.
And
that was officially the media access key to do that.
That was officially supported, wasn't it?
Yeah, they had a tool that you could use to do it. It would pull it across to the network. It was very, very slow, even if you were on a wired network, usually, in my experience.
I'm pretty sure I've mentioned this before, and I don't have zero memory of doing this, but I found some .TiVo files on my NAS a few years ago.
Did they come from me, maybe?
No, they were mine.
Oh, you had a TiVo too?
Yeah, my parents had one. I never had one personally, but my parents bought an early one and had lifetime service on it. It was way before the HD models. All these file names have file names like News 13 this morning, News 13 tonight. These are all from 2006. What it was my dad took part in a thing called Honor Air.
Okay.
Which was a program. This was in 2006, so this was still more possible then. This is kind of not possible now, but it was an effort it was when the World War II Memorial opened in D.C.
Oh, yeah.
And it was an effort in Western North Carolina to organize a mass trip of World War II veterans to D.C.
Oh, that's cool.
To visit the memorial. And my dad was a chaperone for that trip. And he ended up on the local news, like the local news did some stories about this trip.
That's awesome.
And so anyway, we had recorded those and I pulled those off the TiVo, but then they sat encrypted on, this is where I'm going with this. They sat encrypted on my NAS for like 15 years. And
did you not have the media access key?
That's exactly. Well, I grabbed them off the TiVo and then never did anything with them. So no, I did not have the media access key, but I also didn't even ever try to like play them or look at them or do anything with them until I rediscovered them like 15 years later. And shout out to TiVo. I have to say, of course, I mean, here we are in 2025 talking about the fact that TiVo has had service running this whole time, but shout out to TiVo. When I've discovered these files like 15 years after I dumped them off the TiVo, my mom was still able to sign into her TiVo account and get the media access key from her account and give it to me. And I used a little, I guess I think I found some open source utility that somebody had written to basically decrypt TiVo files once you had the Mac. And so I was able to turn those TiVo files into straight up good old fashioned MPEG-2 files and watch them. It was extra rad to be able to do that long after they were recorded and dumped off the TiVo.
That is super cool. I think I'm having HTTP problems, if I had to guess.
So we didn't say, but you had a whole elaborate setup where you dug your TiVo out of storage and plugged it into your capture card, and we were going to boot it live and see what was on your TiVo.
Yeah, I can't remember there's an order of operations for this little box that we all had from like 2010 to DHCP PlayStation 3s. And you have to plug it in a specific order or else it doesn't do the decryption stuff right. Okay, so it looks like this isn't going to actually work, unfortunately. It's either the capture card that's a problem or the HTTP thing. I keep getting signal flash on and off and it's just not connecting. So that's
such a bummer. The idea here was to run your TiVo straight in and we could at least listen to you booting it up and like going through what was on there.
I just wanted to hear the beep, 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 beep one more time.
Yeah.
You know?
So did you go through the programming? Did you see what was on there yesterday when it worked?
I said I wasn't going to, but I did.
Oh, well, good. Now that you can't get it to work.
Yeah.
What was on there?
It turns out it was a lot of TV from like late 2017, 2018. There was a lot of like, there's a lot of like late night talk shows. There was Saturday night. Like one of my favorite things about TiVo is when you would record Saturday Night Live. So if you were out or something, you could come back, and then Sunday morning when you're drinking coffee and kind of hungover, you would watch Saturday Night Live. And if there were skits that just didn't work, you just blast right through them, which was great.
Yeah.
So Saturday Night Live's, Conan, there was a bunch of like series finales of stuff that my wife or I had watched.
I was going to ask, was there anything much older on there that you just couldn't ever bring yourself to delete?
Oh, I mean, this is the benefit of putting the 150 gig hard drive in the 30-hour machine, right? Is like, yeah, there was like the whole run of The Expanse was on there. There were a bazillion Simpsons episodes and just a couple of movies. There was a bunch of Kubrick movies that I'd apparently pulled down off of the cable TV. Archer season 4 was prominent and had been watched. There were a couple like local news broadcasts from San Francisco. One of them was about the launch of the PlayStation VR, a virtual reality headset for the original PlayStation 4.
Okay, that's pushing 10 years ago now.
There was some interesting weird stuff. There were no treasures, I would say.
Okay.
So yeah, it was an interesting, there was a lot. Actually, my daughter was 5 when we got rid of it. So there was a lot of kids TV. There was a lot of like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood and stuff like that. Hey, I hesitate to say this, but now I have the HDCP warning up and the picture is stable and it's not turning on and off.
Okay.
I'm going to one last time go over there and plug it in and plug it out.
All right. Fingers crossed.
Okay. So I'm at the menu. First thing to note, this remote has tacky plastic on it, which feels real bad.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not going to be able to hear this, but I can. And it's going do-do-do-do-do-do, which is very satisfying. So top thing on the list, Ellen DeGeneres, some Top Chefs, Portlandia, Mr. Robot, Last Man on Earth, The Great British Baking Show.
Yep. That is all some 2017 era ass programming right there.
Yeah, Mr. Rogers, America's Test Kitchen, Anthony Bourdain. Seth Meyers was apparently on TV back then. I didn't remember that. That's funny.
You have established your bona fides as late period TiVo users.
Yep. So I'm going to start a Portlandia episode and people can hear the beeps and the bloops. Okay. We might have not been paying for cable cards by this point because this Portlandia episode looks like it's just black.
Great.
And it was probably still recording.
What is that? A 1080p?
1080p probably. Device? Yeah.
Okay. They never made 4K TiVos, I'm sure. Or there's not even really 4K cable broadcast, right? Like,
I assume there is, but I don't know how it would work. Wait, it's a little laggy, the TiVo. I remember it being not great in the like the machines got a little slow and they had a weird UI that you could do like streaming services in here that basically booted to a VM that ran the virtual the apps for the other services. So yeah, it wasn't a great experience.
All right. Well,
it looks like the pictures for the shows aren't coming up because, oh, there we go. Okay. So here's an ad for something on IFC. I'm going to fast forward now.
Finance your home.
There's the fast forward. God, that sounds so good. Fred Armisen, still a gem also. And Brad, oh my God, a Hearthstone ad.
What?
I'm sorry you can't see this.
Is there a celebrity?
Hold on. Yeah, okay. This is people standing. Okay, I'm pausing. I'm stopping. Wow, that remote is really tacky. Yeah, so TiVo is still awesome. I would pay for TiVo right now if the service existed.
Sure. And I mean, and if everyone's viewing habits were such that it was necessary, let's say.
Yeah, if I ever watched TV, it would be more useful to me, I guess.
Right. It's less that TiVo fell out of fashion and more that the services that necessitated TiVo haven't ceased to exist yet, but are on their way there, it feels like.
Or they're all like basically on-demand services at this point, right? Like the only things I watch live are sports.
Right. Like live TV is kind of rapidly ceasing to exist, right? I don't have numbers in front of me, but like it's
my guess is
it's streaming has got to be the majority of usage these days.
I bet it's less than you think because I bet that there's a lot of boomers that still pay for cable.
Well, they did just shut down AOL dial-up in the last month. So yeah, you're probably right, actually.
Also, I guess rip AOL dial-up, a thing that I had when I went to Alaska one time.
Oh man, we blew it. we're gonna talk about the end of BD-ROM, like Blu-ray PC drive manufacturing, but end of lifing AOL dial-up is what we should have ended this show with.
Yeah. Look, maybe AOL gets this whole episode at some point in the future. I really never used it. I used it for dial-up internet when I traveled to Alaska in like 1997, and that was it.
AOL was my first. AOL was what I went to from BBSs. Like, we got a modem. I dialed into the 3 local BBSs I had access to.
Wow.
Then AOL free trials started coming in the mail.
Yeah.
So AOL was my first like non-local BBS like online experience for quite some time before we got a proper internet. Maybe we should do an episode about early online service.
Like CompuServe Prodigy AOL is an interesting.
We have a friend who might be willing to come on, talk about it, who was deep into the CompuServe Prodigy, like kind of all of that stuff. That would be, you know what, that would be a fun episode. I feel negligent that we did not include AOL dial-up on this list of end-of-life services and products here, but maybe we should revisit.
Look, when AOL went to CD-ROM to deliver their software, I was really disappointed because I was feasting on those floppy drives. Like, they would send you floppy disks in the mail, and that was like, those were priceless because it was free 1.44 megabyte floppy disks. You just had to know how to put a fake tab in so they were recordable again.
Oh, were you one of the types who were harvesting the AOL floppies and using them? Interesting. Yeah.
All my neighbors, I lived in an apartment at the university, and all my neighbors knew that when those came, they just chucked the disks outside my door.
Sure.
So I was like, hey, if you're not going to use that disk, that garbage they're sending you, let me know. I can figure out something good to use it for.
This is one of the situations where you're only 4 years older than me, but that was a crucial 4 years.
Big 4 years.
By the time I barely saw, I think, floppy based AOL trials. It was almost all CD, but also floppies were kind of starting to lose their utility by the time that I would have cared about this sort of thing.
Yeah, 100%. Like it wasn't a, hey, I'm harvesting these and doing a lot with them. It was, now I don't have to buy floppies to bring like files to the computer lab and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You want to talk about Blu-ray drives for a minute?
Real quick. I don't think there's not a ton here.
They're ambiguously dead, I guess.
It seems like they're heading that way. Like the actionable information here is that Pioneer sold off their computer Blu-ray manufacturing business to a Chinese conglomerate earlier this year. And who knows, maybe they will continue making and selling the drives. It's unclear.
I mean, and just to be clear, we're talking about PC, DVD, ROM, Blu-ray, BD-ROM drives, not the drives that go into like set-top boxes and consoles and stuff like that. People are still manufacturing those, clearly.
Yeah, although I gather that even that is in decline. I think, was it Sony? I think Sony completely got out of the player business.
They got out of the recordable disc business a few months ago. I don't know. I mean, presumably they're still making drives for PlayStations and stuff like that, right?
Yeah. Well, yes, but you know what happened there. Remember the newer version of the PS5. There is no more integrated optical drive.
Yeah, it's only modular. The hook-on one, right?
It's modular now, and if there even are optical drives for the next generation consoles, I'm sure they will be add-ons.
Wow.
But if there is a PlayStation 7, I will not be shocked if there is no optical interface whatsoever.
Wow. If there's a PlayStation 7.
Frankly, I won't be shocked if the PS6 doesn't have one.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it probably will, but I actually am not 100% sure that I'm not banking on that.
I think it's going to be hard for them to find retail partners to distribute these giant boxes if they don't have some sort of disk drive in them.
Yeah,
but I also don't, maybe the cost of dealing with that distribution problem is less than the cost of making optical drives in millions of devices that nobody's ever going to put a disc in. Because I don't think my PS5 has ever had a disc in it.
Yeah, mine very rarely, if ever. Anyway, like there's some scuttlebutt out there that people have reached out to LG, and LG has said that they're not making drives anymore either. But that's like, I think that's like frontline customer service type communication. That's not corporate.
So
that's not Corpcom.
Somebody tried to buy something, couldn't find it, called the customer service number, and then the poor person working in the call center was like, yeah, we don't make those anymore.
Well, now what I can say definitively, and I think we've mentioned this in the past few months, that I noticed is that the go-to LG BD-ROM models that are kind of like some of the most prized ones in the sort of make MKV
in the ripping disc community. Yeah.
Yes, in the community that's hardcore about ripping discs. That supply does seem to have dried up. Like the LG that I bought for $45 or $50 8 years ago,
Yeah.
is now $200 on Amazon from a no-name third-party seller.
Oof.
Because it doesn't look like Amazon themselves are stocking it anymore.
Is that one of the ones you have to do the firmware hack on to make it so you can rip BD 4K discs and stuff like that?
You do need custom firmware on there to make it read 4K discs and to do some other stuff like disable the speed lock.
Got it.
Which I have done on mine. And then sort of have started to wonder if that may have reduced the lifespan of the drive. Because I was ripping a lot of Blu-rays for a while and ripping them at max speed. And I wonder, the motor does not last forever in an optical drive. And I kind of wish I had bought an extra one of these when I had the chance.
Well,
you know what? I went to B&H, who I like. I buy most of my like serious computer stuff from B&H and not Amazon these days. Of course, we've talked about trying to divest of Amazon in general. B&H is officially listing my model of LG Blu-ray drive as discontinued.
Ooh.
So it seems like this might actually be a thing. Anyway,
we saw some at Micro Center a couple of weeks ago when we were down there.
There's still some out there, although, I mean, if you care about such things, not all of them are created equal in terms of getting the firmware mods to do 4K discs and faster transfer and stuff like that. But this is a much more fuzzy one and not just a definitive, hey, this is no longer happening across, industry wide. It seems like the official death of, these are not being made anymore of the internal PC Blu-ray drive is probably imminent.
I would say if you want to have one of these, now is the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, it's like already getting tough to find at reasonable prices.
100%. I think that's as good a place as any to wrap it up today, huh?
Yeah, sure.
I'm going to fast forward to the end of this episode. As always, Brad and Will Made a Tech Pod is listener supported. We wouldn't be here without you all, the listeners, and we appreciate you all.
True.
It's always humbling, the support and love that we get from people. There was a really nice message from somebody the other day on Blue Sky that I foolishly did not have open now, that was like, hey, thanks for doing this. I really enjoy this. You guys have been doing it for a long time. And I realized I've never said that. And I was like, oh, that's really sweet.
That is nice to hear. Thank you.
But if you also want to support the show financially, which we also appreciate because we don't take ads for the show, you can go to patreon.com/techpod. And for $5, you get access to the Discord. You get the monthly patron exclusive episode where you listen to us usually talk about like things that maybe aren't wholly baked enough for an episode. Sometimes we do some extra questions. We take some silly questions. Sometimes we talk about just weird projects we're working on at any given moment and kind of where they are in progress. Stuff that is like a glimpse into the future of episodes often. And again, it's patreon.com/techpod. It's $5 a month. And we do really appreciate it because it is the way we make money from doing this show. And that means it's also time to thank our executive producer tier patrons, including Jason Lee, Infelicitous Rips, Andrew Slosky, Jordan Lippett, Bunny Crimes, in cooperation with the excellent. Hold on. It just says the excellent. There's nothing else there.
Oh, we ran into that on the Next Lander podcast yesterday.
Okay.
Thank you to Bunny ... for your generous support of both shows. But yeah, it's not, I think the theory is that Patreon has a character limit on.
Or maybe I'm supposed to say Bunny Crimes in cooperation with the excellent Twinkle Twinkie, David Allen and James Kamek, and
I like that idea.
Pantheon, makers of the HS3 high-speed 3D printer.
That's clever.
It's a high concept. It's a high concept shout out. I like that. Thanks everybody. Thanks everybody. Executive producers, associates, just people who are supporting the show. We appreciate all of you.
We do.
And if you don't like, times are tough right now. If you can't support the show, do what our friend Rob Zachney says over on the 50 podcasts that he's on every week, and consider leaving a review because that also helps a lot if you like the show.
Like algorithmically.
Yeah. It gets more people in here, and more people means that there's more potential people to subscribe to the Patreon. Each review counts tenfold. So we appreciate them all. And on that note, oh, wait, can we talk about the thing that Bertrand gave us, or should we save that for Cold Open next week?
We should probably save that. That's too momentous to cram in at the end.
Because can you see it?
I see that you've mounted yours.
Yeah, I put a light on it, but then the light fell a minute ago. That's what that thumping noise was. So I got to find a better way to mount that light. But we'll talk about that next time, or maybe the time after. But
we have a cool object of power to discuss in the future.
Yeah, and on that note, please consider the podcast. Wait, no, that's not it. Cut that out, Brad. Don't put that in.
Oh, too late. Keep going.
Please consider the environment before printing this podcast. See y'all next week.